Life is weirdly a lot harder than we've been told. And midlife? That's a whole other can of worms that I was completely unprepared for. What about you? But here's the good news. There are so many new skills and mindsets that we can learn to make even the toughest days a little bit better. You just haven't learned them. Welcome to Thrive with Kira, a smart and scary podcast for women in midlife that teaches the skills to get more joy and love in your life. Join me weekly as I teach science-based, smarty-farty topics and break them down into bite-sized lessons that you can apply to your life, all while sharing my own shit show life stories that you can learn from. I'll be talking regularly about getting more joy on a daily basis, thriving in midlife, yes, you can, figuring out menopause, healthy dating and relationships, building self-worth, body positivity and neutrality, growth mindset, adult friendships, and also just easy mindfulness. So we can stop just surviving and start learning how to thrive. Welcome to Thrive. Hello there, everybody. Hello there, sugar pantses. Happy Saturday. It's Saturday. I'll be putting this out probably within an hour, just to let you guys know. It's a nice Saturday here in Wisconsin. I'm working right now, but hopefully not all day. How's everybody doing? I am going to take a second here, and this is unplanned and will not be perfect on any level. And I'm just going to apologize for a second for all of my non-American listeners, which I know there's quite a few, which, hi! This week, as we know, there's been some switch-ups in the election here in the U.S., and I need to firmly and proudly and confidently say that I am 100% behind Kamala Harris. I am 1,000,000% behind it. Somebody this week reached out when I, in my stories, wrote that I was excited to have the potential of a not only woman president, but a Black Indian woman president. Some people seemed very shocked that I, who talk about love and joy and happiness and kindness and empathy and self-compassion and self-worth, they were surprised at how I'd be voting. One woman reached out to me to say that it was wrong for me to share out loud who I am voting for. And let me tell you this, I'm never going to please everybody here. Who are all these pleased people? But do not be shocked that a person who believes in love and empathy and joy is 100,000,000% not voting for Donald Trump. So I need to stand up here because I was so fucking scared for so long. Oh, I don't want to mention who I'm voting for. Some people may be mad at me or not like me anymore. Do not care. I am not here to make people comfortable. I am here to help them learn how to be better humans. And I can't do that and promote somebody who is mean, hateful, racist, sexist, homophobic, and just a not kind human. And I just want the exact same rights to my body that men have always had. Do you get that? Men have always had these rights. We are just asking for the exact same rights. All right. Glad we got that out of the way. Glad we're on the same page here for that. Let's talk about some good news. I don't know where you're listening to this, but all the episodes are back, guys. 380 fucking episodes now. 380 episodes. Moved them all back. You have access to them for as long as I'm living, and it makes sense. You're welcome. Now, probably anything you've ever wanted to hear somebody who is sweary but reasonably smart weigh in on is at your fingertips. So if you haven't listened to a lot of my past episodes, there are years of me telling my stories. Even like watching me fall in love with Danny, that's even part of the process, right? You can go back to his first podcast where he was on probably in 2015, 16, 15 or 16. I think it's called the Danny Chronicles. But whoop, there it is. Go check them out. Have some fun. Find you got something now to listen to on your commutes or while you're cleaning the house, or I don't know. What else do you do listening? Walking your pets? All right. So let's get into happiness. What I want to talk about today, and I actually want to talk about probably last week Rob was on, and we talked about some of the first things that he said to me that blew my mind and 100% moved my focus into positive psychology now 7 years ago, I believe, 8 years ago. He talked about 10% of our happiness. So only 10% of our happiness comes from external circumstances. Things like your relationship status, things like where you live, your job, other people in your life. They only affect your happiness, good or bad, 10%. And I know the first time he shared that with me, that fucking blew my mind. And now that was years and years ago. That was like 2011. Positive psychology was just starting to get some legs back then. But at that time, even after at that point, I had been a coach for 4 or 5 years. I was like, I'm sorry, what? Because like you, I had still been on that happiness as a destination treadmill. That full idea that I just had to get a few things in alignment. So maybe my body and how I felt about that. For me, it would be my business and what do I need to make every year to feel good and to feel successful and to have the life that I want. Ultimately, I was trying to create like this perfect storm of awesomeness where my body, brain, spirit, life, relationships, everything all came into alignment. And then I'd be happy. Now, part of me, when I say that out loud, still has that younger version of me going, isn't that right? Aren't I supposed to be working on being a better person day after day after day and reaching for those goals and those stars or whatever? Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing here? The actual answer to that is no. So that's what I believe in. My guess is there's a very good number of you who, if you still don't believe that, at some point you believed it. That there was a time in your life where enough things were going to feel good that you would just feel good. What started happening when I was working so hard to get to those things? There are former versions of Kira, by the way, guys, who tried to work out every single day and tried to eat extremely healthy and tried to, and being there for every single one of my friends whenever they needed me because I wanted to be that friend, the friend that you called if things were bad. I just was like, that's who I want to be in my friendships. And the problem with that is really none of it was for me. I thought it was for me. I would have said out loud at the time, I'm 100% doing all of these things, which feel hard, sometimes painful, extremely uncomfortable to the point of exhaustion and mental upset, that I was doing them for my own good. And I was going to berate myself and push myself and no pain, no gain myself into this best version of myself that I would then keep there as much as possible. I can maybe have bad days or bad weeks, but always get back to that place. And none of it was for me. Yes, I wanted the fruits of my labor in my business. Of course, I wanted to make enough money to be able to feel good and live well and be able to travel occasionally and the things that we think. But secretly, I wanted my business to do really well because I wanted people to look up to me. I wanted people to think I was fucking cool because I didn't think I was cool. I've never thought I was cool. I know I'm not cool. Wait, I just know I'm not. I wanted for people in high school to be like, wow, look where she got. I wanted people in college to be like, I had no idea Kira was capable of this. I wanted my parents to be a little bit in awe of me after watching me struggle through college. It was never fucking about me. And it's not that I didn't love what I did. And it's not that I didn't want a good and thriving business, but I didn't go after it with intention because it wasn't for me. And it turns out all of that painful exercise, emotional breakdowns when I would just stop eating sugar for days or weeks or months on end, which is my own personal hell, by the way. And I didn't even care about how I felt emotionally or mentally. Didn't matter because this was all for my physical. Because I was getting healthier. I was choosing that healthier lifestyle. Nope, that's bullshit. I was doing it because I didn't think guys would like me if I didn't look a certain way. I was doing it because I didn't like going out in public in the body I had. I was doing it because I didn't want to be judged by others thinking, what I did in my spare time or what I ate. I used to think that I would be happy once I got into a relationship. That was going to be ultimately fulfilling to me. I honestly just deep down didn't think I'd ever get it. Cannot say that enough. I did not want a relationship for years and years and years because of all of the things, right? Dating and people and dating. But there was a little part of me that thought, maybe somebody's going to swoop in and see my worth and tell me that I am lovable and tell me that I'm attractive, something I've never felt. But guess who that wasn't for? That was for everybody else. That wasn't for me. I wanted to prove that I was attracted to everybody else. I wanted to prove that I was lovable to everybody else, even myself. But we know that's fucked up because nobody can prove that I'm lovable except me. I wanted to travel, to see the world, explore the world. That's actually absolutely true. That's 100% true. I have loved that since my 20s, not before that because I grew up in a small town. I really didn't know. And although I have loved the different places that I've visited, the different people that I have met, the foods that I've tried, the cultures that I've experienced, as much as I did that for me, I also did it because I loved that people thought it was cool that I did that. I loved it because people would be like, what? You worked on cruise ship? That's so cool. I always wanted to do that. Sometimes things were for me, but when I'm really fucking honest, lots of it's for other people. So that I don't feel like I don't belong. So that I don't feel left behind. So that I don't feel stuck. So I don't feel like I am fucking life up. That's part of it. Talking to my single ladies who are probably still the majority of people who listen to this podcast. Part of the reason it sucks to be single is because you feel like you don't belong. That our society has created this like great little space for couples or families. I feel even left out because I don't have a family, which is 100% my choice, by the way. So that was what I thought my lot in life was. Working to be better constantly, not very well, burning out, berating myself, sitting and licking my wounds until I was just strong enough to do it again. And each time, believing in my heart of hearts that I was never going to change, that I was never going to get better. Who feels that? Who has tried to be one of these people in life who is bettering themselves, whether that be mind, body, or spirit? And it doesn't seem to matter. And it doesn't seem to make you feel good at the end of the day, which is kind of the point of working towards happiness or joy. So once again, my mind was blown when I was told that all that stuff I'd been focusing on was only 10% of my happiness. And the other 90% was completely up to me. So the first time I heard that, I was like, shit. Because here I've been trying to do all this fucking shit, not doing it well, going, oh great, my happiness is actually up to me. Well, good luck with that, fuckers. Good luck with that. Yes. Because I can't make myself happy. There's like dopamine in my body or serotonin that just doesn't seem to want to show up. And that was my first entrance into positive psychology. So a couple years later, I decided to dig into this soon a little bit more. I'd read some books, I'd listened to podcasts, everything else. Found it really fascinating. I like how it pushed up against some of the parts of psychology that I'd never quite felt in alignment with. That always felt like, really? That's interesting. Huh? Oh. So I got my certificate. So what does that mean? I went for, I want to say 9, maybe 10 months to, first of all, a weekend a month in Chicago, where I was with teachers and superintendents and nurses and all of these different people studying positive psychology to bring back to either their business or schools or company, whatever it was. But I remember sitting there the very first day, a little nervous because I had not done anything like that in a very long time, where I'm sitting in a room with people learning things, conversing. And as much as I may sound confident here on this podcast, I was not the kid in high school raising my hand. I was not the kid or the young woman in college raising my hand. And I wasn't at all. I would maybe make a funny joke in the corner, but I felt very insecure about raising my hand and saying something that might be wrong or sound stupid. I did not find, now that I know I have ADHD, college easy in any way. And part of the way that showed up is I would show up to class. And when I did, I sat there, I maybe took notes, and then I left. I never actually was a part of the process or the class. So there I was in Chicago, first weekend, sitting with a bunch of people who felt a little bit more qualified than me, a little bit more educated than me. There was also therapists in there. And we're learning the basics of positive psychology. And they start talking about one of the core beliefs of positive psychology, which is something called the happiness set point. And this was tied to that 10% that Rob talked about. So I was really interested in listening. And what I learned based on a couple of different research studies, I'm actually going to probably have in the show notes a TED Talk I really like that talks about this, probably way better than I am right now. But I remember the day. I remember where I was sitting in class. And I was like, I am ready to get happy. I'm ready to help my people get happy. I am, bring on the happiness, bring on the positivity. And so that first morning was like, let's just go through the happiness basics, which is PERMA, which is the foundation of positive psychology, put into 5 letters, that kind of thing. But I really sat up and listened when we started talking about the happiness set point. Now, I believe that everybody has strengths. We have gifts, the things that we are good at, and then we have things that don't come as easy to us. And it doesn't mean that we can't also do those things. We just might have to work a little harder at it. And in fact, I never thought I'd have a podcast. I never thought that I could talk into a microphone and have people want to listen. Didn't think that was going to happen at all. The fact that this podcast has over 300,000 downloads is mind-blowing to me. I think it's more than that, but that was the last time I looked. But one of the things that I'm not as good at is I'm not very concise all the time. So I do want to read from an article that I will put in the show notes, this little part on happiness set point so that it's really clear. So this article said, we humans are creatures of habit. And this is absolutely true. We know for a fact that one of the way that our brain relaxes and feels safe is to go into automatic thinking or automatic doing, for that matter, where you can just get up and move through the motions without a ton of thinking into it because it's what you do every single day. That's just true. We may think that we're not good at creating habits, but my guess is there are things that you do every single day and have probably been doing every single day for years. That's just who we are as humans, period. But we're also remarkably resilient, and we have an extraordinary ability to adapt to our surroundings. So when it comes to our sense of well-being, we have something called a set point for happiness. And it's a psychological term that describes our general level of happiness. You probably know a lot of people, right? And there's maybe some people who just seem happier than others, and some people who are a little bit of Debbie Downers and always unhappy. That's a little bit of the happiness set point. And each of us has a different set point. Some of us have a higher set point, some of us have a lower set point. The higher set point means that we are overall happier. The lower set point would mean we are overall pretty unhappy. And a lot of people just fall somewhere in between. But while we may have emotional ups and downs throughout our lives, they have learned that these are temporary. That no matter what life throws at us over time, our happiness bounces back to the same set point. Now, there's some cool research that backs this up, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. So, they actually followed lottery winners and tracked their happiness. So, for instance, you can win the lottery, and despite the short term elation of that experience, right? Oh my God, I finally have money. I can pay off my bills. I can do this. I can do that. That after a few months, they found that the person went back to their happiness set point. So, even something as life changing as winning the lottery, after about 2 to 3 months, people came back down to their normal happiness set point. I thought that was interesting because I think, like you or I, we probably think we win the lottery and things are just better. It just gets so much easier. So we're going to be able to be happier. Not true. Now, on the other side, they also followed people who had terrible car accidents, who ended up in a wheelchair, ended up paralyzed. And what did they find? They found that although, yes, when that first happened, their happiness set point went low for a couple of months, it then went back up to their normal happiness set point. That almost anything in life that hits us, good or bad, can make a good impact for a little while or a bad impact for a little while, but we just come back to the set point. Fascinating, right? And it blew my mind because it pushed back at all of these things that I believed were going to get me to joy, that were going to get me to a happier place, that were going to get me to a much better life. One of them was always money. Weirdly, I love to win the lottery, though I don't play it. But I remember sitting there listening to this research, and I'm like, so what does make us happy? If winning the lottery, which I think we can say across the board, I feel like I could walk up to any person on the street, and besides maybe the 1% of people who have a ton of money, generational wealth. I love that meme that says, I wish my family would have given me generational wealth instead of generational trauma. Thought that was funny. But I think that if we walked up to anybody and said, if you won the lottery, would you be a happier person? I think everybody would say yes. I think that they would think that it would make such a positive impact in their life that their happiness level was just going to raise up and stay there. Not how it works. So I just remember listening to all of this, and maybe for the first time, and I can't be fair to college because I feel like I was young, had a fixed mindset, was really struggling, didn't really ask for help. But I remember raising my hand and going, okay, but then how do I raise the set point? If the fucking lottery isn't going to make me happy, how do we all raise the set point? What are we all doing here? And that's where the gold is, my friends, because it's nothing what you think it's going to be at all. It's not about having the perfect body and the perfect weight and being the perfect health machine. How do you raise the happiness set point? If it's not these monumental job promotions, winning the lottery, finding love, getting married, having children, owning a home, if it's not all of these checkpoints that I was raised to believe I wanted and was supposed to go after, if that's not it, what do we fucking do? And how many of you also have believed that if you hit these checkpoints, that you would just be happier, that if there was some happiness level, each one of these things was going to raise you up? Am I making sense? email me if I'm making sense, because I haven't heard from anybody in a while. I haven't heard any emails, and I like to hear from people that they're listening to this and learning from things. So it would really mean a lot. So if you learned something from this today or from a recent episode, please reach out to me and say hello. Kira at thrivewithkira.com. So how do we raise the set point? What do we know so far? We know external circumstances, 10% of our life is only 10% of our happiness. The external things in life. We know that now, that things like winning the lottery, getting a job promotion, getting into a relationship, getting married, all of these different things also don't equal happiness or make you happier. So what does? Well, 50%, and this is, by the way, quite a conversation among the positive psychology people, that 50% is genetic. What does that mean? I think that means a couple of different things. I think number one, some of us have depression in our family and it's handed down to us. So I think 50% being genetic feels hard because we're like, fuck, I didn't choose that. I didn't pick those people. But here's the other side of that I think that they keep proving all day, every day, that it's not just about the genes that your parents gave you. It's also about how you were raised to look at the world. Was it that you had to earn your love? Was it that you were looking for your worth in everybody else? Was it that you were never going to be good enough? I'm a little fucked up because my parents didn't like themselves. I can't even imagine what it would be like if you had a parent who was actively telling you that you weren't going to do well. But that's particularly a lot of 40 and up kids' realities. So really, 50% is genetic. It's what was handed to you, but it was also how you were raised. Now, a lot of people feel that there's things you can do with that 50%. But the most important part is that 40% of intentional activities. And I think, and many other people out there think, that those intentional activities can help that 50% too. Now, what do I mean by intentional activities? Is it working towards every single goal you've ever had? No. Is it working out 3 hours a day? No. Is it eating an exact certain diet? No. None of that shit. None of that shit that you have been slodging and pushing yourself through to win some kind of acceptance or love or happiness. It is skills that you can add to your life every day. Things like mindfulness, meditation, gratitude, flow, resilience, and grit. But it's also mindsets, boundaries, self-worth and self-compassion, healthy relationships, and how to build them. All of these things are what raise your set point. These silly little, we didn't even believe they were really a thing until about 5 to 10 years ago things. And when last week I said, here we are, our whole society is overworking ourselves, not doing things that ultimately actually bring us joy and happiness. And then we wonder why there's no joy and happiness. It's because we never learned these things. Now, put on top of that, if you are like me and an elder millennial, a Gen Xer, not only did we not learn about mindfulness, did we not learn about meditation, did we not learn about all of these things that kids are actually doing and learning in school now, we learned the opposite. This is counterintuitive to how we were raised. Because I don't know about you, but I was raised that if you don't like your life, you fucking work harder. That's it. You work fucking harder. Whatever it takes. And if you don't, you're lazy. Sometimes I talk to people, sometimes potential clients, sometimes clients not, whatever. And even talking to them about adding some of these things in, there is so much pushback because we have been working our butts off so long and so hard to get to this point of happiness or healthiness or success, that somebody telling you that adding 10 minutes of activities a day into your life can actually move your fucking happiness set point feels wrong. It doesn't actually compute sometimes in my head, even though I've now seen it to be true in my own life. I've seen it to work in Danny's life. Danny and I meditate together, guys. By the way, we do this shit together because when I am feeling better in my life, it role models to him. Wow. Okay, Kira's pretty zen lately, which is, by the way, not something that regularly comes out of his mouth in this household. Kira being zen. Let's just be honest. All of you out there who know me, who've been on a retreat with me, you know that to be true. But here's where I see that counterintuitive really kicking our ass. That I see across the board, our coping mechanisms are shit. Because so were our parents. You had a bad day, what do? You crack a beer, you pour a glass of wine. You take a gummy, you light something up. You turn on the TV to not have to think about what happened. The thing is that none of those things are really bad. When that becomes your only coping mechanism, that's when it's not good. What would happen if for 2 minutes you sat down, knew how to process those feelings, knew how to figure it out in your body and your brain and let them go and then felt good? What? The idea of being able to help ourselves feel better quickly doesn't even seem real to me. Because I was taught that your lot in life was your lot in life. This is who you are. Just kind of had to deal with it and all the bullshit that went along with it. Nobody let me believe that I could truly like myself more, that I could truly be a better and kinder person. Anybody who really knows me knows that at this point, I'm a better and kinder person than when I started this business. Even 3 years ago, even 5 years ago. I made a statement recently on the Rom-Com Rescue podcast that my goal in my 50s is to be a kind person. Now, it's not all day, every day, but that's my goal. And I think it's a really fucking good goal because I see so many unkind people and that's not helping, because how can I truly be happy if I don't feel like I'm being kind in the way I show up to the people in my life? And I'm going to make a grandiose statement here that I truly believe to be true. Part of the reason that we have such deep hate, racism, misogyny, homophobia is because particularly our generation and the generation older than us, meaning the baby boomers, they don't want to help out other people. They don't want to help out other groups of people who maybe had it harder than them because they think they've already had it hard too. Nobody's winning out here, guys. I know we're shaking our fingers, including me, at particularly white men, but they're not winning. They don't like themselves. They're not good people. They're not fucking happy. I don't think women are particularly happy. I don't think people of diversity are particularly happy having their existence threatened on a daily basis. But why I don't think there's fucking forward movement here is because it's really hard to have empathy for someone else when you're miserable. Somebody's like, I'm not helping women out because I don't feel like anybody helped me out. That's what they're thinking. I know that's not right. Hopefully you do too. But at the end of the day, when I'm like, how can people be like this? How can people be so mean? I mean, Jesus, online, guys, so mean, so rude, so hurtful. And it's because they hate themselves too. And how they hate themselves just comes out in different ways. Sometimes it comes out as awful and abusive and angry. Sometimes it comes out as people-pleasing and resentful. None of it's good. None of it's making us healthy. None of it's making us happy. And we are torn down on the inside because we can't see how the person next to us is struggling through our own layers of bullshit. don't just learn this new way of thinking, these new skills that they've proven make people healthier and happier, these new mindsets that can help us move through the world a little bit lighter, a little bit happier, not taking the weary of the world with us everywhere we go. This is all possible now. This is all shit that none of us learned. And if you've tried to apply some of it yourself and it's not working, that's where I come in. Don't need to tell you about Thrive. Spots are filling up. It's moved back to January. It goes through September. 2 retreats, 2.5 retreats actually. But you will learn, practice, apply every one of these skills and mindsets to your life over 9 months so that your bad days aren't as bad. When you're feeling overwhelmed, you know what to do. That when you've had a terrible day and you usually reach for that glass of wine or whatever to numb, you have different strategies in your back pocket that are actually helpful. Because let me tell you how much it helped my breakups or whatever, getting extremely drunk and then getting extremely hungover for days. What I felt about myself and my life in those hangover days, can't go back to it, guys. Can't go back to it. I just can't. Those are days that I don't want to get up. Some of our shit's just not helping. And the things that we are focusing on, the things that we are giving our time and our attention to, are not leading us to joy and happiness. And we are consistently creating our own existence from that place, from that point. If you're not sure and you don't see it, jump on a phone call with me. If you want to check out Thrive and talk to me about it, I'll point out what you're not seeing. Some of you know it's me, are like, yeah, she will. But when you start noticing things that you didn't notice, and by the way, the answer is usually self-worth, almost always, then we know what to change and how to change it. And sometimes when we don't do that very well on our own, like myself, we need a community, we need a guide, we need a system, we need a plan. That's what I'm doing. So whether or not you do Thrive, and some of you guys are like, Kira, I'm 35, I can't do it yet. This is a place you can start. You can pick just one of these things, right? Dig in, listen to podcasts, read a book about it, whatever, and just start doing it every single day. Because you now know, and there is no question about it, because science backs it up, that this is how we get happier. That this is how we get into a headspace to have more joy. We were wrong because this whole time we were thinking that we were doing things externally that would bring us happiness and cause us to be happy. A relationship we had, that person loving us so much would make us feel happy. That job promotion that we got, that all of a sudden that extra money and maybe respect was going to make us happy. That new place we moved to, whatever it is. Who here can raise their hand and say, I have made a huge life change and I'm actually now more unhappy? That's just fucking real. We don't know what life's going to give us. We all think we do. We are kind of living on our memories of yesterday and thinking that's going to be our future. And we have no fucking idea. And when you hit midlife, it all comes crashing down how much you haven't been taking care of yourself, how maybe you haven't healed some of your shit. Maybe you don't know how to navigate through life as much or as well as you thought you would. That's okay. I got you. All right, guys, that's it for today. If you're ready in 2025, who thinks that seems weird? Wow. In 2025, if you're ready to change your life, change it with me. Let's do this. Let's fucking do this. I'm so excited. There is now a 10-part payment plan. Figure it out. Come talk to me. We're going to jump on a call. And by the way, if it's not a good match, if I'm like, you know what? This isn't what you need right now, I will tell you. I'm that person. If you liked this, please subscribe. I don't always put things out weekly. Sometimes I put things out 3 times a week. Sometimes I'll have a week and a half to 2 weeks in between. So subscribe so you know exactly when things go live. Finally, if you really love it, please leave a review. Whether it's just some stars on Apple or Spotify, or really writing down what you are learning and loving about this podcast. I read every single one. They fucking make my day. You are the wind beneath my wings. And it helps get it out there. Because honestly, as much as I can say this, for as much feedback I get about this podcast, which is a lot, and most of it all very positive, except for the people who don't like my swearing and don't fucking care. Even if you never share this with another person, by you writing an anonymous review, that lets other people know this might be something that they want to check out. All right, guys. I'll see you soon. No more surviving. Let's thrive.